Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Qdabra's weekly webinar. This is Patrick, and I want to thank you all for being here. Today, I am thrilled to introduce Kaoru Okamura, who has been here before. She is a longtime project manager, technical evangelist here at Qdabra, and Kaoru and I have worked together for over 20 years, I believe. But this is a great example today of creativity during the coronavirus epidemic, pandemic, whatever you call it. So without any further ado, I'd like to pass the mic to Kaoru. Kaoru, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Sounds clear to me.
Great. So today we are going to talk about Modernize your FormsViewer Forms with CSS. So it's just CSS and CSS and CSS. So I think some of you already know that the Joanne's really nice separate pane demonstration presented in webinar and trainings in the past. And this really inspired me, and I wonder, well, we may move forward with this technique. So, what new in this technique we are going to share today is, the last time we have to dive into the source files to add some class or ID to specify specific DOM. But now I will introduce the technique without editing source file. And mostly it's just CSS and with a tiny bit of JavaScript. And then we can obtain modern layout or micro interaction that we are going to share today, like a sticky header or some various things. And if you haven't seen that one, okay. So this is the Joanne's demo that we first have a kind of separate pane here. The left and right side pane is controlled separately, and we can scroll this. And based on this, I created some demonstration here, and I think this page really looks like just a web page, but in fact, this is Forms Viewer, and you can hover on menu and sub-layer menu will be shown with animation effect. So, what kind of thing I did? So, I as a CSS lover, I often dive in. For example, oh, this is the button, and what's there? I just used the back window and see, yes, this is the button, and check what kind of parameters or attribute they have. And I found, well, they have data, FD, XD, control ID, control 30. Oh, it looks like the ID. So I go to the button property here and see, yeah, ID is control 30, and well, we can edit here. So what I do is, yes, this is the menu, and this submenu should be hidden at the default situation. So using this ID, I put button submenu as the prefix. Comparing to the head one has the ID starting with button menu. Then I can write the script like this for this one. This is the DOM corresponding to the submenu, and yes, this pane shows the CSS. And here, for example, you can see the input button. This field start with button submenu. Then here you can see the height is 0. So this means it's hidden. So I uncheck this one, and you can see. So that's the.
This is great. Just to recap real quick, so for those of you who don't know what DOM means. That's data object model, I believe. And what Qdabra is showing here, I believe, is a much simpler approach to creating these menus, which you could use to switch between sections in your form. And it's you don't have to go in and manually edit the CSS like we showed 2 weeks ago. Is that right?
That's right. So in case of button, we can utilize the SharePoint ID, and I use prefix, and this will be propagated as a this attribute. We can handle in CSS. Then the next step is I need to keep open while the cursor is on this section. So the next thing I did is I wrap tab. This is the section. Then the next thing is how can I locate the section? Well, unfortunately, we cannot specify an ID manually using the InfoPath UI. However, I noticed one tricky thing, which is ScreenTip, which is not heavily used, so I may have this information, and I put this in a menu group. Then let's see what kind of things we can see in actual HTML. Okay, right. Which is the group? I think. Is this the group? Yes, this is the group div that corresponds to the section, and you can see. XD section shows that this is the section, and wow, the menu group is now shown in the title. So I can use the attribute title equal menu group then. That's how I describe these things using CSS. So in case of section or calculated value, we can hack the ScreenTip and use this as title. No, I think, in fact, that's it. If
So it's easier. It's not only is it more beautiful because it's dynamic, but it's also easier because you're not having to go into the CSS. So we're going to make these samples available, right?
Yes, exactly. So I think this explains almost everything, but let me show a few more examples because there are various things we can do using CSS. For example, it's really easy. I just check some website with keyword CSS trick or something and find something I like, and I just implement this with a small adjustment using the sample. So if you are, in case you are interested in, excuse me, page. This is the source code, or this is the InfoPath version. So we have this one, and add some effect on the second and the third and so on footer. Footer is the thing that CSS can handle really well. And the third demo has much more tighter connection with form. I wonder if I can do this kind of thing for a long time. Now, did you notice that the label float up when I move cursor in, but I move out, it moves back. But if I have something, then it stayed here. So this is floating label. And as the last case, there is a submit button here, but in many cases, submit process may take really long time. And the user may wonder, is the form working? Or something like that. We had several approaches on this one, but this is another workaround. And I assume we are going to switch view after the completion of the process. But when I click this one, let's see. This shows, yes, we are processing. And in fact, this portion is handled CSS only. And
This
that's
is just amazing, Qdabra. This is really,
yay.
the floating labels is just amazing. I hope everyone else's jaw is dropping as far on the floor as mine is, but and I just wanted to clarify, Hillary, jump in here if you want, but I made a mistake in the previous comment about the going into the CSS. It's the XSLT that you don't have to edit, not the CSS.
Right. We have to create and edit CSS, but we don't have to with Cara's technique here. And yeah, and I want to contribute that ever since she first showed me, especially the floating labels, I'm all over this. I'm so excited about it. But yeah, what we're not having to do for most of this work that she's demonstrated today is save the form as source files and dig through what I think we will all agree is those atrocious XSLT files. Who wants to look at those? Terrible.
Well, Chris had an interesting question regarding the easier technique here. He says, if it is easy for me to do these changes, what stops somebody else from doing changes without my permission? Anyone have an answer?
I mean, does everybody in your organization have access to change your templates?
Right. Maybe there's a hidden question here, Chris. I don't know, but my reaction is the same as Hillary's, is that as long as you control who has access to those templates and who can upload them to the manage templates area, then you should be good, right? Or are you thinking about something else? Are you thinking about like hacking it somehow? I'm trying to understand that. Maybe Jimmy can jump in and think through that, but oh, okay, great. So Chris is just, okay, Chris, thanks for clarifying. Sorry, God, we completely disrupted you. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is recap. For button and picture button, we can utilize ID and section and calculated value. We can use or hack ScreenTip to title. And in most cases, if you cannot find the technique, you can just wrap on the area with section, and you can you have control on it. And this is the sample CSS. It's not so big, but CSS is really good handling on Hoover. Like this is a submenu with height, and this is submenu if the cursor is on. So this is height 0 to odd. And just as an additional tip, CSS user may think about display non-black block first. However, that does not work well with animation effect, like a smooth move up and down. To do that, we need height information. And this is how compact on the JavaScript on the submit automation. CSS is really good about handling Hoover or other things, but it's not good at handling on click. So I just add a class when the button is clicked. And this is how complex about a script on floating level. We just want to check the field has value or not. And here, this is not perfect. Sometimes what annoyed me is because we sneak the we hack the ScreenTip. You sometimes see ScreenTip here. So Jimmy already created a workaround that I didn't utilize on this demo to the simple story, but the idea is we can swap out ScreenTip using the some script and move this specific keyword. And I'd like to move this just as a class so that we can really easily write on the CSS. Then we will no longer have that kind of ScreenTip, which does not actually mean the ScreenTip. So if we have time, I'd like to show you from the scratch demo on a sliding label. Let's see if I can do that. So I am start InfoPath Designer from the beginning. First, I am going to remove the border. And I need two fields like a name and email. Here, I'm going to prepare a section, but no need of new group. No need. I'm going to change binding first to here and remove, delete, and I'm going to set a specific one for ScreenTip, and our CSS refer this as the floating label section. Then add this here, but I remove this name, and instead of that I add calculated field so that we can control that better, and just set the text as enter your name, and also set the ScreenTip. My field level is the one I am going to use in my CSS.
So Kari, this is Hillary. Just to clarify, then what you're doing here is that ScreenTip is what you'll be using to apply your CSS classes. Is that right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure I was on track.
And I switch this for the email and enter your email. All right. So this is a really simple one, and I'm going to save. Webinar demo here. Okay, then go to the template and add new template. And webinar demo is the new one I just created. Upload. Now let's see. This is very basic form. So I'm going to inject curl here. Inject curls. Inject it. Then download it. So it's better to close this first. And I'm going to, it's on download. And open this as designer again. Now, what I will do is add resource files. And what I need is the floating label. Floating label CSS. I'm going to copy this. I added, and on finish loading, add just two rules. The command, the curl command. Yes, the parameter is this one, and the rule is, load resource here. And one more file I need is float level JS, and also add this. Okay, command and this JavaScript this time. Okay, load resource. There are two load resources, and I just save this. Webinar demo. I'm going to override webinar demo. This is webinar demo. Not download, but webinar demo, newer version, and upload it. Now, you can see.
That was so fast, Kata.
Right, it's really quick. And we are going to send you the each CSS and JavaScript file as a package after this webinar. So as the last thing I have as the key takeaway is there are a lot of CSS tricks available on the web. So you can just find it and apply it. And now I feel somehow unleashed from the InfoPath style.
From the shackles of InfoPath.
Shackle, out of the shackle. So
Right. And Ko, this is Hillary. Do you have any particular online resources for CSS that you would recommend? Because I mean, we all know there's a lot of information on the web, and some of it's better than others. But if you're new to something, it's really hard to ascertain what's the good information and what's the bad information. So do you have any sites you would recommend to our attendees for starting to learn CSS if they're unfamiliar with it?
Not so much. I just do a web search, and in most cases, the official CSS document comes first.
Okay, so you can just find the official CSS documentation and start looking through that? Okay.
We've got a question from Pete. Will this work in any browser? Yes,
that's another thing. Yeah, most browsers this work, and some of them may not work all the version of IE, but modern browser can do that.
So anything
what about IE 11?
Yeah,
because FormsViewer works in IE 11.
Yeah, mostly. But may not work like an animation is the one area that sometimes all the CSS cannot take it. But mostly we can work. I haven't tested on IE 11 yet, but works with Edge at least.
Really impressive, Kaudu, during this coronavirus. So your creativity is really showing. Way to go. And we have a bonus demo. I think we still have time. Let's see. Ginny, are you there?
Yep, I am here. Hello, everybody.
Yeah,
okay. Great. So I have a little demo regarding FormsViewer URLs. So if you've worked with FormsViewer very much, you've probably noticed that the URLs can get quite unwieldy, especially if you're using it in SharePoint. If it's not SharePoint, they're not too bad. But when you got it in SharePoint, you got all this gunk here that has to be in the URLs, like the SP host URL and the SP app web. And occasionally you can run into trouble with that when you have something that limits the length of a URL you can use. For example, let's say I have a list here where I want to just have some links to my forms. So I just grabbed the link to my expense report here. And I'm going to try to add an entry here. And we can see it's longer than 255 characters, and I can't add it. The inspiration for this this talk actually came from a customer who wanted to put URLs in a list so she could use them in a workflow. So email somebody URL to her document that had been submitted to FormsViewer. So we can see just the one to open up the template is 324 characters long. With a URL to a document can get even longer. So I thought about what we could do about this, and the idea I came up with was just to have a very basic, very simple page within SharePoint that would take in a couple of parameters like the template name and the document URL, and just bounce the user over to FormsViewer. So if you wanted to send them to a particular form, you send them to that page plus the template name, and then it'll send them right over. So I put that together here. This is my HTML page. Just basically, it's just an empty page with some JavaScript on it. You don't really have to look at the JavaScript too closely. And what you can do to set this up is you go in to your site using SharePoint Designer. This is my April 23rd webinar site. And you come down here to all files, and you just drag the file in here. There it is. Now it's in my site. Once you've got it in there, you can click it to open up in a text editor. And down here at the bottom, there's this placeholder, FormsViewer URL, with some instructions on how to fill that in. So basically, we just open up any template. Take the template name part off of the end, including that ampersand, and then just copy that in here. Okay, save that file. So now I can go and access this page. So here is the URL for it up here. It's just my site plus form redirect.html. So site. Form redirect.html. And here it's detected that I haven't passed in any parameters, so it's just showing an error. But if I want to go to my expense report, you do $QDT for Qdabra template. I wanted to keep them as short as possible so we don't risk the character limit. And then expense report. And that's just going to bounce me right over to the form. So now I can go back here and fill some of these links in. So form redirect $QDT equals expense report. Okay. And another for supply requisition. All right, so those fit within the 255 character limit. I think they were somewhere on the scale of let's see, 73 characters, so plenty of wiggle room. Oh, well, that doesn't have the parameter. Oh, nope, that's the. Okay, well, we'll see how that goes. But 73 plus the template name is about 100 characters, so plenty of wiggle room to include a document URL or whatever. So here I am over at the expense report, and here I am in my supply requisition form.
And Gene, these could also be used in email, right?
Right. Yeah. Email. Yeah. It just as long as the person has access to the SharePoint site, because the page is within the SharePoint site.
That's a great technique.
Right, so it doesn't work obviously with anonymous access.
Right, but I mean, this is basically a very basic HTML page. So if you had some other place you could host it in like some free web space, then it doesn't necessarily need to be in SharePoint. It could be anywhere. So that's an option if you have anonymous users. And I'll just show you what it looks like with the document URL. So I've got my expense reports here. So my document is James Risch at Qdabra.com -2020-04-23 XML. So that's my document URL, QDD. And it's usually a good idea to include the template name as well when you don't have, unless there's a reason to omit it. So that also helps speed up the loading time a little bit. So I got both of them here and try that out. Yep, I didn't fill that many fields here, but you can see that it opened up that document. And that, even with the full URL for the document as well, we're still at 207 characters. Getting a little close to 225, so we can leave off this part at the beginning, just have the relative to the root of the site. That gives us 178. Yeah, and that still works. And if you find that you're dealing with this in some really deep SharePoint site where the URLs from the start are already pretty long, it's just HTML. We could bake in part of the URL here or the template name or whatever. There are options there, but it's most flexible when you can pass in both freely. So that's what I went with, and that's it.
This is awesome. You mentioned anonymous. Do we have the anonymous mode somewhere where you can quickly show this new feature that you've also created in the last week or so? I know we've done it as part of training, but maybe even the webinar 2 weeks ago, but it might be a good idea just to refresh people that we have a new feature that we've added to restrict access to anonymous.
Yep. So this hasn't been released yet, so I'm going to install FormsViewer test in this site. FormsViewer test.
We're going a bit over on our time. If you have questions, this is a great time to throw them into the question area while we're waiting for the app to add here. Thank you all for being here today. We're really excited to continue innovating this year with FormsViewer and get that Forms Designer out as well. Always on our mind. This might take another minute, right, Jimmy? Is it?
Yeah. So just to give everyone a preview, we've had some people say they'd like to restrict their templates so that not people can't open them anonymously, and I think it's good practice not to have anonymous access enabled unless you need it. So in the next release of FormsViewer, which should be coming out in the next week or so, you'll now be presented with an option to allow or not allow anonymous access on your forms. If you're already using, if you've already uploaded forms, they will have it enabled by default, just so you don't break anything you might be using. But from this point forward, you'll have the option to specify that. And it's just a checkbox, which will be unchecked by default. But if you want to allow it, you just check it and you're good to go. Here we go. Okay. So got my template. Gonna go in here and upload XSN, and we can see that now we've got this allow anonymous users checkbox here. So I'm gonna leave it unchecked. And we can see that this button is grayed out here now, the open anonymous. And so I'm going to open up normally and then try to access it anonymously by tacking on this part at the end. And we can see I get an access denied page there. So now I want to allow anonymous access. I just click the box, hit the upload button, and there we go.
Hey, Jimmy, can you also show the manage templates page with anonymous access disabled so they can see what that looks like in that table?
Yep. I'll go ahead and disable it. It's taking a little while to save. There we go. And yeah, so here we can see it's disabled for this form. And these three had been here since 2018. So they're basically grandfathered in with the anonymous access. But of course, if I wanted to disable it, I can just go in here and uncheck that box. And there we have it.
Well,
Super nice.
Yeah, the only thing is that upload's kind of I guess counterintuitive when you're just updating it.
Well, I think
Yeah,
it said
I noticed
upload.
that.
I think it said upload when it was a new template, and then on the other one, when you went to rich text test, didn't it say update? So when you went to one that was already existing, it said update. So I think it was upload because it was a new template. And you're right that that's counterintuitive, but I think it was because we were still on the same page as when we went to create the new template.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great stuff. And we're looking at next week, you think, for go live on that?
Yeah, I think so.
Great. Thank you very much for that bonus demo. I think we still have a short 1 minute for our advertisement, our obligatory advertisement here at the end. I'm going to, Kirby wants to do it. So Kirby, thank you for being here and for agreeing to do the quick sell pitch here at the end for FormsViewer. Are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Did you get
Yep.
the presenter? Okay.
No,
Oh, you got the wrong one. I'm sorry. I gave
I
it
don't
to,
have the
I gave it to Kelly by
slide.
mistake.
Sorry.
My bad. That was my fault. Now, does it work now?
Trying to share.
Kirby, we're going back to Kirby, I think. Oh, is it?
Okay, yeah.
Is it your slide, Kelly? It's your slide. Okay, I'm really stupid here. Sorry. Okay.
Show
Oh,
my
you've got the
screen.
presenter baton, and Kirby has the mic.
Yeah, so Qdabra's FormsViewer app is the quickest way to move your forms off of InfoPath. No costly conversions. You just install the app, upload your forms, configure your lists and libraries, and you're ready to go. It is the only solution on the market that empowers you to continue using your existing forms, which means no more worrying about the future of InfoPath. And as a bonus, you'll get several new features that weren't in InfoPath, like the one Kaoru just demoed to you to freshen up your forms using CSS. And it also offers other features like PDF generation, submitting repeating data to SharePoint lists, and more. And we're committed to serving our customers. We have different outlets to help you with your forms. Qdabra hosts a free support forum, infopathdev.com, that has places for customers to post questions, download tools, and read our blogs. We also offer FormsViewer trainings twice or thrice a year, and also webinars every week. So if you need our assistance in your form projects, just let us know by emailing us at support@qdabra.com, and we'd be happy to help.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kirby. I just want to thank Kauda for this amazing trickery today with the CSS and the so easy to add it. We should have done this 2 or 3 years ago. I apologize to everyone for not. I guess we didn't have the coronavirus, so the creativity was not there. Just kidding. But we have been sheltering in place. This is day 82 for me. It's almost been a quarter. Everyone here is sheltering in place regardless of our location. We're here to help you through the difficult times with the coronavirus. We've been working at home here remotely since 2003, so we know how to do that. We're happy to use GoToMeeting or Zoom, whichever your preference determines. And thanks again for being here today. Thanks, Qdabra, mainly for demos, and Jimmy for the bonus. And it's great to do this webinar today. I hope you guys all have a wonderful spring. We'll be back in a week or two. We've got a new topic on sending emails without flow. So we're going to show you a technique that allows you to send more synchronous emails, like when you want them, instead of waiting for flow to kick it. So we'll have another webinar here either next week or the following, and we look forward to having you here again. Have a great day, everyone.